All right, so let's go ahead now that we've covered the data column, stats table, and data panel. I won't touch too much into the chart. Definitely go ahead and check out that webinar. Let's talk screening, because I'm sure you guys have questions about this. So first things first, this is the screener module. In order to do your screening, you probably want to be in here. So give this a click if you're in another module. You click this, and then this drop-down menu, and let's go ahead and X out all the screens. You can see search symbol, my screens, new screen. Here you can enter a stock if you'd like to. You can also just type in the chart and type, and that brings up a symbol as well. But in order to access the screening, these are the main two things that you want to interact with. So first, this is a drop-down menu where you can go ahead and give this a click, scroll through all the screens that you've previously created, or you can go ahead and access the screener presets. So let's talk about those, because there's a few today that would be very useful in identifying that relative strength and potentially stocks bucking the overall trend. So over here on screener presets, so once again, I was on save screens. You want to click this header here. You can see we've got a few folders set up here. Industry groups, you can scroll industry groups. We've got some technical screens. So a lot to offer right here that can give you ideas as well as serve as your foundation. We've also got some markets. You can go through individual markets, some fundamental mining screens, and we'll be always adding to these presets. We've also got some Deepvue specific screens. So there's a few of mine on here. Power 21, looking for strong stocks. They're now real close to their 21 moving average. We've got the Deepvue Universe screen, which is kind of my main weekend screen to look for, cast a wide net and look for ideas. And we've got some other edges here: highest volume ever, highest volume of the year, highest volume since IPO. Tyler, I know you combine these all in one screen, but here they are for you if you'd like to use them. To load any of these presets, let's go ahead and load model book stocks. Let's go ahead and give that a click. You can see it's automatically loaded. There's 116 names in here. And in order to see the criteria, what you want to do is click this button right here. This pops out this bar right here. And let me zoom in once again, just to make sure you guys can see it. You can see we're looking for common stocks, over $15 a share, price percent change, year to date over 50%, average dollar volume greater than $10 million on average, and average volume over 250K. So this is basically looking for stocks that then you can build a model book with. And it's pretty handy right here. If you want to edit any of these features, you'd want to duplicate this screen and then use it as a foundation. And in order to do that, what you want to do is, once again, go over to presets, go to whatever screen you'd like to duplicate. We'll go ahead and use this one once again. Click these three dots here, and then click duplicate. You can also just edit. Well, that's a feature for me because I'm an admin, but you'd want to click duplicate, save it as your own preset duplicate, and you can save it to a folder if you would like to. You can also create a new folder. I've got a folder called preset duplicates. So let's go ahead and click save. And then it's nice and organized there for you in the preset duplicates. Speaking of today, there's a few, as I was looking through these screens to maybe discuss what to talk about, there's a few screens for down days in the market. We've got screens from Ben Bennett, Mike Webster, Oliver Kell, William O'Neill, Mark Minervini. And we'll be always adding to these screens. And these are screens that were inspired or developed by top traders. And they're just screens that they use, every week, every year in the markets. So for Mike Webster, down days, tell screen might be useful on a day like today. Oliver Kell also has strength on down days. So let's go ahead and load that up and click edit screen. And you can see we're just looking for stocks that were positive today, have good average volume, and are over a certain price. And you can go through these stocks pretty quickly and just go ahead and look through their charts and see how they're acting. So let's see if there's any questions here. Where do the results of the screen populate? The results of the screen populate over here on the left-hand side. And you can see there's 352 names over here. And we're on a weekly. Let's go ahead back over to a daily. And you can see I'm on stock 14 of 352. And I apologize if I'm going a little fast. I'll try to slow down a little bit. But you can just basically go through these screens, give this a look, and all these were up today. And you can always go ahead and tweak this to suit your own needs. Can you export tickers from a screen? You can use these bulk select tools and go ahead and share, export. You can copy them to Twitter, copy to your clipboard, export to a CSV, export to Excel. You are limited based on the total number that you can export, just because we don't want people, downloading our entire database and passing on to others. But for 99% of normal use, this is plenty for watch lists and screen results.
Hey,
That's
Richard, just
yeah,
one thing to further the point about where do the screen results populate. If you build a screen from scratch, which I think you'll get to,
yeah.
as you start applying individual filters, the column on the left updates in real time. So as you apply more and more filters, that list, dynamically updates as you apply those filters.
Yeah, so here we're starting with almost 12,000 values there. Let's just go ahead and somebody was asking about RS scores before, so let's go ahead over to performance scores. Down here, let's do RS score 3-month greater than, say, 95. Let's go ahead and add that. And now we're already down from 12,000 names to just under 500 right here. It also shows right here. But in order to review the stocks, what you want to do is use your data columns, give this a click, and then you can just spacebar through all these names. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so let's go ahead. In terms of the filters, just touching on this, once again, you can search for a filter, or you can use, let's go ahead and clear all, or you can use the folders to navigate here. I personally like the search feature. So let's go ahead and make a test screen. So let's go ahead and do type in general. Let's go ahead and look for common stocks only. And you can see that automatically cuts out ETFs and anything that isn't just common stock. Let's say last or price in general. Let's say the daily last has to be greater than $20 a share. And you can see we further cut down the results to around 2,000 now. So we're cruising. Let's do volume. You can either do average dollar volume or average just regular volume, depending on what you'd like. Let's go ahead and do average volume 20-day and set that to greater than 100,000. Let's add that. We're down to 1608. And now let's create the screen that looks for earnings growth of the last quarter greater than 25%. So let's go ahead to EPS. Let's go ahead and scroll down here. Growth percentage. There we go. So let's do the latest quarter greater than 25%. Click add. And there you go. Now we've got only 441 stocks that meet these 4 specific criteria. All of these 4 criteria need to be met in order for a stock to make it onto the screen. So I want to pause here and just see if there's any questions specifically about earnings filters, the very basics of screening. So I'll pause and give you guys 30 seconds here to write down any questions while I get a sip of water.
While you're taking a break there, Richard, I'll just jump in and answer a question live here that I answered in the Q&A,
Sure.
but it's worth repeating. The data points are universal across Deepvue. So if there is something that you find as a filter in the screen, you can find that same data point and set it up as a column in your table. And you can also set it up as something that shows up in your data panel. The data points are universal across the whole application. So they exist everywhere in columns, the screener, and the data panel.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Let's see here. I don't see any specific questions here. to screening. So I know people are going to have questions about OR filters. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So once again, this is just a normal group one, an AND group, where every single criteria needs to be met for the stock to pass through this layer. So if you think about 12,000 stocks going into this bucket, in order to get out of this bucket and make it into your results, all these four criteria need to be met. However, in Deepvue, we've got the added functionality where, excuse me, you can add an OR group, which operates a little bit differently. So let's go ahead and add an OR group by clicking this button. And think of this as an added layer, an added condition to your screen. So once again, 12,000 stocks come in here. And then in order to pass out the other side of this group one, all four criteria need to be met. Then we come to this OR filter. So this is a little bit differently because only one of the criteria in a specific OR group needs to be met for any stocks that come into the bucket to leave. So let's go ahead and X out EPS growth latest quarter, and I'll build a quick screen and we'll talk things through and make sure I break it down and so it's super clear. So once again, let's go for growth, EPS growth, latest quarter. I've clicked this group. So this is the group that I'll be adding any data points that I add over here. This will be the group that's selected. If I click this group, you can see it's highlighted in yellow. Now this is the group that will be selected, but we want to add to the OR group. So let's go ahead and add the latest quarter greater than 40%. Let's click add. We've got now this condition here. So now we've got 342 results. But because this is an OR group, we're going to add one more condition where we look at the sales growth the same quarter and also see if that's greater than 40%. So let's go ahead and type in sales growth percentage, give that a click, latest quarter, and say greater than, once again, 40%. All right, so this is the screen that we've set up. We've got 439 results. And let's walk through all these different filters and talk through exactly what this screen is doing. So remember, coming from the top, we had a library of about 12,000 stocks. So that's our whole universe in Deepvue. Then we go to group one. And in order to pass through this layer, this group of the screen, every single one of these conditions need to be met because this is an AND group, meaning it has to be a common stock, and it has to have the last price be greater than $20, and the average volume 20-day has to be greater than 100K. Every single one of these conditions has to be true for the stock to make it through this layer and pass on and see if it meets the conditions in the rest of the screen. So once a stock, the 12,000 stocks, has entered group one, only a few thousand remain after we exit group one. So now we go to group two. This is the second layer of the screen, and you can have multiple layers, multiple OR groups. Looking at this, this is an OR group, so it's different than an AND group. Remember the language here: common stock and last greater than 20 and average volume 20-day. If all that is true, then we can pass through. Then in group two is an OR group, so only the EPS growth latest quarter has to be greater than 40%, or the sales growth has to be greater than 40%. Either of these conditions can be true, or both can be true, and the stock can enter this group and exit it and show up in your list over here. So let's see. Once again, this is an OR group, or this is an AND group. This is an OR group. This one, every single condition needs to be met. Here, only one condition of these two, or of any n number of conditions in this OR group, needs to be true for stock to enter this group and successfully exit. So let's even add that the prior quarter also has to be greater than 40%. And you can see that we've actually increased the number of values. That's because there's one more condition which can be true, which allows stocks to pass through. So here, only the EPS growth has to be greater than 40, sales growth this quarter greater than 40, or sales growth one quarter ago greater than 40. So I want to pause here because I know the and or filters are confusing. It was difficult to come up with this logic and try to make it as intuitive as possible. So I definitely want to pause here and make sure that I answer any questions on the and or filters. Let's see here. What would be good? Would we see the number that get through group one that we can see at the end of group two? What would be good would be to see the number that we get through group one in order to, yes, that's something we've been thinking about. How, can we show the number of stocks that, meet this condition? You show it over here, or at the end of this group, show the number of stocks that still remain. We'll think about how to implement that. Yes, you can. It's definitely possible to screen based on geography. I forget the exact filter for that. Tyler, if you know offhand, what the name of that, you can do country over here.
Country, yeah.
Yeah,
It's gonna be country.
yeah, or state over here as well. Cool. Yeah, and this OR filter, it gives you a lot more options because a lot of people, they build a screen that looks for earnings growth. They run that one, they do all their work, they go through all the charts. Then they run another that looks for sales growth with pretty much the same criteria. This allows you to combine it and get really creative and be more efficient with your screening and combine screens, and that way you can go through your weekend routine, your daily routine that much faster. Rod, did
And
you have something
Richard,
else? Yeah.
it might be a good idea to just show the Deepvue universe because it uses a lot of that OR logic as an example.
Yeah, I didn't want to scare people off with 3 different OR groups to start out with, but yeah. So this is
it's a good point, actually. Like, I know this is like very fundamental based, but for somebody like me that I'm a little bit more of a technical trader, like I set this up for technical screen parameters as well. So I put all like sort of the basic criteria I want met in group one, and then I add OR baskets for, let's say like on a day-to-day, you can look for an oops reversal or a bullish outside day. You can add those 2 technical parameters to the second group and it becomes an OR function. And then it has to pass all the stuff in group one and then one of those other 2 technical parameters to make it through the screen. So it works for technical aspects as well.
Yeah, another circumstance where it might be useful is you love buying pullbacks. You love that's your setup, that's your go-to. Here you could set it up so it's looking for stocks within 1% of the 21 moving average, or stocks within 1% of the 50-day. So you can combine those 2 screens basically into one and just go through the results and see that. So it's super helpful and quick and easy. Let's see. Hey, Mog, how are you? Good to see you. Can I make EPS and sales plus? Can you rephrase your question? I'm not quite sure if I'm positive I'm getting it. Let's see. Can I make EPS plus sales instead of EPS or sales? So if you'd want these to both be met, you'd put them both in group one, if that makes sense. So you basically, delete this group, which we can X out all this, you can minimize it, and you click this and then add both of them into group one where every criteria needs to be met. So hopefully that answers your question, but let me know if it doesn't, and I'll run it through again. All right. Okay, good. Awesome. Yeah, great questions, everybody, and good to see, Anna, that helped a little bit. Perfect. So let's go ahead and load up the Deepvue Universe screen. So I have it among my favorite screens here. That's a folder that I created. And let's go ahead and load that. This often returns around 300 to 450 names, and this is kind of one of the main screens I go through on the weekends. It's a pretty good source of ideas, and it also gives you a sense about the overall market, how it's doing as you go through those names. So here we've got the criteria for the Deepvue Universe screen, and you can always change the names by clicking here next to the name. We've got the AND group, which just looks for certain liquidity requirements, dollar volume greater than 20 million, the price greater than 10, and we're looking for stocks here. Then we've got 3 individual OR groups. So this one, in order to pass through this layer, it has to meet one of these relative strength criteria. So the past 12-month relative strength has to be greater than 70, or the past 3 months has to be greater than 80, or the relative strength over the past 1 month has to be greater than 90. So it can be strong over the past year, past 3 months, or past 1 month. That's why I included this layer. Then we move on to group 3. And in between each of these layers is basically an and. So if this whole group is active, then we pass on to the next group. This is another OR group. You can see it says OR right here. It's also in purple. That's what differentiates it. And this is looking for either strong relative strength in terms of the overall group over a 12-month basis, 3-month basis, or 1-month basis, or the stock itself, its relative strength score has to be very strong. So to pass through this group, this layer, either the group has to be pretty good or the stock has to be exceptionally strong and within, the top basically 10% of all stocks in our universe. Then we move on to the last group, group 4, which is basically looking again for trend criteria, or the stock has to be extremely strong. So either the price is above the 200-day moving average, or it's above the 50-day moving average, or the relative strength 1 month is greater than 87, so it's in the top 13% over the past month, or the 3-month has to be greater than 93, so it's within the top 7% over the past month. So all these strung together, all these individual layers add up to a screen which looks for stocks that are potential leaders with strong relative strength, or their groups are pretty strong.